What's going on, my friends, and welcome back to the Shameless Watch Collector. If you watched part 3 of the AliExpress brand guide, you knew this video was coming, and I didn't want to make you guys wait. I feel so insanely lucky to be one of the first people in the world with this watch on my wrist, and I wanted you guys to be the first to know about it. This is the brand new Cadisen TI-7, a watch that takes Cadisen in a completely new and genuinely exciting direction. This is unlike anything they've ever released before, and I think it moves them into a whole new tier, at least in terms of ambition and execution. So let me give you guys the inside scoop and an in-depth look at a watch that hit the market literally under a week ago. Let's get into it. Before we get into the review, I'll tell you guys the story of how I got my hands on this one so early, and I'll include some spicy details that I didn't talk about in part 3 of the AliExpress brand guide, where I first showed you the TI-7. Cadisen contacted me about this watch just under a month ago. They were originally actually going to be in part 2, but I was so hyped on this piece that I saved them until I was allowed to talk about it, and that was pretty much the day after part 3 went live. I honestly felt so guilty knowing something that I couldn't tell you guys, especially this, because don't think I wasn't seeing all the Cadisen talk in the comments. So yeah, that was a brutal couple weeks of having to bite my tongue. But that's behind us now, and we finally get to take a deep dive into this watch together, a piece that feels like a legitimate turning point for Cadisen, and I think they know it too. Let me let you in on a little inside baseball here. First off, I'm always completely upfront with you guys when a watch is given to me at a discount or for free. It will never affect my opinion on the watch, and I always review it based on its retail price, not what I paid. But I owe that to all of you as my subscribers. Transparency is the minimum. At the end of the day, the only reason I'm getting any of these opportunities is because of you guys, the support on this channel, and the community that these brands see in the comments. That's also a big reason why I keep doing watch giveaways here. Not only do I want to show my appreciation for subbing in the first place, but I also want to pass along some of the luck I get to enjoy because of all of your support. So above all, thank you, seriously. Now back to Cadisen being stoked on this watch. If you follow the channel closely, you'll know about half my reviews so far have been watches provided by brands or heavily discounted, and the other half are watches I bought myself, where I always show exactly how I got the price I paid. Coins, sale timing, etc. That balance is going to continue. I've got about 10 reviews in the queue after this one, and they're a pretty even mix of complimentary and paid. This particular one was complimentary from Cadisen. But what I haven't talked about until now is the agreements that sometimes come with these complimentary pieces. More often than you'd think, brands want you to sign a collaboration agreement when they send you a watch. Some of these agreements say things like, don't say anything negative about the watch. Those emails go straight into the trash folder. Other times, it's more subtle. Don't criticize certain elements of the watch. Bracelet, movement, materials testing. It's always different, honestly. Those agreements also often include an option to send the watch back if you decide you don't want to review it under those terms. So I have accepted some of those in the past, and a few of them have ended up being watches that are awesome and that I'm very excited to show you guys. Others went right back, because I'm not interested in being anything other than honest with you guys. So with that context in mind, let me read you, word for word, what Cadisen said when they asked me to review this watch. We really appreciate the quality and depth of your watch reviews, and we'd love to invite you to take part in reviewing one of our upcoming releases. We welcome your honest, independent review and real wearing experience. That is the first time a brand has explicitly encouraged me to be honest and go in depth. So ask and you shall receive, Cadisen. Let's get to the review. As always, we'll start with dimensions. This is a 40mm diameter watch with a lug-to-lug of 49, and the thickness is only 11.5mm. Exactly where I think you want a titanium piece like this to land. Slim, but still substantial enough to have a presence on the wrist without feeling cumbersome for a second. Cadisen told me this watch has a strong focus on lightweight wear and structural aesthetics, and I can tell you, that's obvious the moment it's on your wrist. It disappears. It's among the most comfortable watches I have ever worn. I'm also glad the case and dial are as big as they are. 40mm is my favorite size diameter personally, and I'm happy they committed to it here. When the watch is going to be this light regardless, why not keep the proportions confident? All in all, Cadisen nailed the dimensions here. It hits exactly what they were going for. Let's move on to our next category, materials and craftsmanship. One thing that I love about reviewing watches is that every watch seems to have a different main category. The one that matters the most and the one that we spend the most time talking about. For this one, it's absolutely the materials. To my knowledge, this is the first Cadisen watch with a fully titanium case, and that feels like a major moment for the company. Before I go further, let me quickly explain why titanium is a big deal for anyone who hasn't gone down that rabbit hole yet. For me, it comes down to two core reasons: weight and durability. When people say titanium is light, it's not a subtle difference that you only notice if you're looking for it. Titanium is dramatically lighter than steel because the metal itself is close to half the density. A typical 40mm stainless steel watch can land in the high double digits on the strap, and it's easily into the triple digits on a steel bracelet. This watch weighs 58 grams with the strap. That's a big difference. Titanium also changes the way the watch behaves on the wrist, its balance, its swing, the way it settles, and how little you notice it by the end of the day. The whole point of titanium isn't that it looks different, it's that the weight drop is so significant that it transforms the entire wearing experience. And that lightness does not mean you're sacrificing any durability. Titanium is tough, corrosion resistant, and it brings a more modern and engineered feel to a watch. And the reason you don't see titanium on every watch is simple: it's harder to work with. It can be more stubborn to machine, more difficult to finish cleanly, and less forgiving when you're trying to keep costs down while still delivering sharp lines and crisp surfaces. So when a brand like Cadisen moves into a dedicated titanium line, that's not a tiny upgrade. That's a meaningful step up in materials, manufacturing, and honestly, brand identity. One downside of titanium can be that it's sometimes more prone to showing fingerprints and smudges as you wear it. And Cadisen thought of that too. They coated the case with an anti-fingerprint layer, and it works. And yes, I'm the first one to admit that I have a fingerprint problem in all my watch photography, and I said that in air quotes. Except this one. This case stays clean and it looks dialed on the wrist all day. Another reason it looks so crisp is the finishing process behind it. Cadisen says every TI-7 case goes through a CNC precision cutting and sandblast brushing process, along with hand-polished edges. And again, that care is noticeable. The edges have definition, the texture looks intentional, and the whole case has a refined, technical vibe. You're also getting a screw-down crown and case back here, along with 100 meters of water resistance. More than enough for my needs. The watch comes with what Cadisen calls a premium nylon strap. While the strap hardware and buckle match the case perfectly aesthetically, Cadisen doesn't list the buckle material anywhere. A lot of titanium watches in this price bracket use coated steel hardware to match the titanium and keep costs reasonable. And I'm guessing that's what's happening here. I don't mind, especially because the buckle and hardware feel very solid. And while I'm usually not a nylon strap person, I really like this one. It's comfortable, it suits the watch, and it keeps the whole setup feather light. It's also one of the more convincing premium nylon straps I've handled. It feels consistent with the rest of the watch. This is clearly where Cadisen wanted to impress. Materials, craftsmanship, and execution that matches the premium theme. And I'm happy to say that they very much pulled it off. This is one of the lightest 40mm watches you will find anywhere. It's lighter than the 38mm Timex Expedition titanium, and noticeably slimmer than something like the Bernie Fieldwatch titanium, also while coming in a touch lighter than that one as well. Let's keep it rolling with the movement. The TI-7 uses the Miyota 8215, which is a reliable, entry-level automatic. Contrary to what some people assume in my comments, I don't prefer it over the NH series. But I don't dislike it either. I talk about it in watches that use it a lot because I like when brands switch things up, and it can help keep the pricing down. It also fits cases like this very well, and it looks great behind an exhibition case back. That said, even though the movement is on display here, it's not dressed up. Cadisen rarely decorates movements or goes fancy on display backs, which is a shame, because when they do, they can make some really beautiful stuff. With this watch being so strong everywhere else, this feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity to elevate the whole presentation and distract a little bit from the workhorse nature of the 8215. Still, it's not a deal breaker for me, and I'll take a display back over a blank one every time. There's also a pretty embarrassing typo on this case back. Granted, this is like the first batch of this watch to ever exist, and this is an easy fix, and I hope they do soon. Because, woof, spelling your own company name wrong, that is not a good look. At least no one can see it when you're wearing it. One real downside of the Miyota 8215 though, is how noisy it can be. and this one is a great example of a loud 8215. At certain angles, a wrist movement sends this rotor into a full-on death spin that takes forever to calm down. If you're in a quiet room, it's noticeable. And it's a weird noise that doesn't really sound like a watch noise or a tick. Maybe it's the K-shape, or maybe I've just underestimated how loud some 8215s can get. But much like the watch dives piece we just reviewed, the movement choice here feels very tied to the bigger picture. Premium materials and strong finishing everywhere else, while keeping the price grounded. And you still do get an automatic here. Even though the 8215 isn't perfect, it doesn't feel like a big sacrifice, especially if you prefer mechanical watches over quartz. It's time to talk dial and design. This is a stunning, distinctive watch with a design that feels unique to Cadisen. This is a landmark release for them, and a lot of that comes down to the design work. Obviously, design is subjective, but in my eyes, this is a truly beautiful watch. Easily the most attractive thing Cadisen has ever put out. And that is not a small statement. I like several of their other pieces, but the T-17 feels like it stands alone on a different level. Cadisen uses the word aerospace a lot when describing this watch. They say it's inspired by aerospace materials and minimalist mechanical design. They also say it has aerospace grade lightness, whatever that means. I view the whole aerospace angle as more of a stylistic cue than a literal materials claim, but to be fair, the sandblasting and CNC work on the titanium case does make it look very modern and high-end. Cadisen also talks a lot about geometry when describing the dial design, and I get why. The layout feels intentional, balanced, and clean, and it has something that's unbelievably rare from an AliExpress brand. A design that isn't a homage or a direct copy of anything. The closest thing I can think of is something like the Autodrome Group B, but calling the TI-7 an Autodrome homage would be a massive stretch. And you could say that original design is rare for a reason. Sometimes when a brand tries it, they remind us why homages are the safer option. But that's not what happened here. This dial is genuinely attractive, and they absolutely nailed the color combinations. I had a hard time choosing a color, but I went blue because I love the lime greenish on the outer ring in Second's Hand, or is that yellow? I'm not sure. Fun fact about me, I am unbelievably colorblind with my reds, yellows, and greens. Like, look at this test, apparently there's a number in there. I'm just seeing a whole blob of nothing. If you see a number, drop it in the comments. Anyway, I'm about 90% sure, at least, that is lime green, and I love it. I've always thought that blue and that bright green play well together. The other two are excellent too. The white and orange feels like the cleanest and most versatile option of the bunch. Second's Hand matching the outer markings is a really nice touch. It feels like the most minimalist one as well. And the black and gray one feels like the most aggressive out of the three. This one also screams titanium watch the hardest to me. My favorite detail is that pop of color in the Second's Hand. I think that's yellow, or is it the same lime green? I don't know. But it's a great move. It's one small accent that grabs your eye without turning the whole dial into a bunch of craziness. And there's a couple other reasons why everything pops so well on the dial. First, Cadisen says the dial is enamel coated, which is what gives it that glossy, glazed finish. And it's not that it makes the colors look glossy, it's more like a clean, sealed surface that just looks refined and satisfying. And second, they went with sapphire crystal and AR coating. And sapphire isn't always a given with Cadisen, so I'm glad they went with it here. It definitely matches the durability theme of the titanium, and the AR coating is really impressive. This is some of the best clarity I've ever seen from a single layer of AR. It's crisp, it's clean, and it makes the whole dial look like it's sitting right on top of the crystal. The photos and videos speak for themselves, I think. And then you've got all the small touches that give this watch real character. I love the Cadisen engraving on the side of the case. It works so well, and it adds personality, and it's another thing that makes the watch feel original. You just don't see that often. The TI-7 engraving on the screw-down crown is excellent also. It helps the model feel like a flagship piece, like this is Cadisen's gold standard. Adding to that, the Cadisen logo on the dial and buckle is different from their usual logo, and it's adjusted to match the TI-7 font style. I love that. Even little things like the buckle are exclusive to only the TI-7, which is not something you expect at this price. Even the strap hardware looks good. It adds consistency to the whole design. Everything here feels deliberate, nothing feels skipped. And to wrap it all up, the lume is bright on the outer rim and the inner indices, plus the hands. It reads like a minty green to me. I mean, this watch just bullies my colorblindness. One thing I don't love, however, is how mysterious Cadisen can be about some materials, like the buckle material and the loom compound. They just call it ultra bright raised loom, which it is, but I can't find any other specifics anywhere. Still though, from my testing, the loom performance is strong and it hangs on for a while. Overall, this design feels like a major win for Cadisen, and honestly, a moment we might look back at as a turning point. There are brands with bigger catalogs, bigger budgets, and more history that still don't have a single watch that you could call truly original. And some that do, still haven't quite figured out how to create an attractive one yet. It's so impressive that Cadisen seems to have pulled both off here. Let's wrap this all up with the price before we get to the final grade. Right now, this watch isn't even available on the Cadisen website yet, only AliExpress. On release day, it was listed at $142, and right now, it's on sale for $123. My guess is that once it hits the website, it'll land somewhere between those, probably around like $135, so let's judge it roughly at that number. At $135-ish, the value here is ridiculous. Titanium watches are consistently priced higher than stainless steel, and while $135 would make this one of the priciest pieces on the Cadisen website, it's not by much, like roughly $9 above their current top end. A typical Cadisen with a Miyota 8215 lands just under $100, so for $35 more, you're getting a full titanium case, AR-coated sapphire crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, plus a totally original design in both the dial and case. Yeah, sign me up. Anything under $150 feels like a more than reasonable price for the TI-7. This looks and feels like a more expensive piece. Another win for Cadisen, pushing into a whole new lane while still making sure to keep the value intact. Time to assign a final grade. The Cadisen TI-7 gets an A. Closer to an A+ than a flat-out A, but a few small nitpicks kept it from getting the ultimate honor. Let's focus on the positives first though, because there's plenty. Cadisen did a near perfect job on the design and materials for their first titanium watch. Original design is hard. First-time titanium is hard. Doing both at once is bold and risky. This could have gone sideways fast or felt bland. Instead, they delivered a watch that looks great, feels great, and they somehow only had to offer 3 colorways because they all have completely different personalities and none of them are misses. And they also took titanium seriously. The case has personality, the side engraving, the TI-7 crown, the finishing, the overall shape, it all feels premium and unique. And it's one of the lightest 40mm titanium watches on the market today. So they didn't just make it look like a titanium watch, they made a titanium watch that immediately sits in the upper echelon of weight and comfort. And this thing feels special. It feels like Cadisen obsessed over the details. The logo treatment is exclusive to this model. The dial finish looks clean and refined. The crystal clarity is exceptional. Everything feels and looks intentional. What kept it from an A+ is the ambiguity around the buckle and loom materials, plus the noisy, undecorated 8215, with a rough company name typo on the case back. If Cadisen had dressed up the movement or stepped up the finishing behind the display back, it would have pushed this watch into a different conversation. But again, I'm nitpicking. If you had told me a few months ago that a Cadisen watch would earn my next A grade, I wouldn't have believed you. But this watch is undeniably distinctive and high quality, and it immediately moved Cadisen into the top group of brands that I'm watching closely on AliExpress. The TI-7 is a big moment for them, and I cannot wait to see what they do next. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this video, and I hope you enjoyed what was also a big moment for a shameless watch collector. We have never gotten our hands on a watch this early. So again, thank you guys so much for making that possible for this channel. It means the world to me, and this all still feels so new to me. I left this watch linked in the description for you guys from AliExpress. It's not an affiliate link, they have not opened that up for affiliates, but I don't care. I just want to make sure you guys have the opportunity to get this one as soon as possible. And I also recently was given some custom discount codes by AliExpress themselves, so that's awesome, and I left those in the description for you guys as well, and I did confirm that they do work for this watch. So I have a new brand guide video coming for you guys very soon. I was actually almost done with it until this watch delivered to me, and I dropped everything and immediately started working on this video. But expect a new brand guide video very soon, but it's not going to be AliExpress. I can't wait to show you guys what I have in store. But until then, Shameless Watch Collector, signing off. And always remember, it's not that serious.